Hi, this is Dr. John Grazel, and this is another case study, this time of the Congo, in the course I give on peace, post-conflict reconstruction, and development. In the course, we study Bali as a situation where traditionally you could say the society really had its act together in terms of how it sustained its religious systems, its irrigation systems, its social systems, a very well balanced society. Today, we study the Congo, which I say is pretty much just the opposite. It's a country that doesn't have its act together at all. It's probably the least objective of many of my case studies because I was there for 2 years, from 2000 to 2002, as the USA director. And so I have a lot of strong feelings, and a lot of things I say come from my own experiences. The first thing I try to discuss with the class, and this is just a synopsis, I tell them the Congo is a very big place. So first of all, when you talk about it, the fact that terrible things are happening one place doesn't mean terrible things are happening another place. It's a place filled with, and perhaps the worst humanitarian disaster on the planet today. Millions have died over the last 10 years in the Congo. Repeated rapes, destructions of villages, outbreaks of diseases, mainly in the eastern Congo, though not entirely. At the same time, you always have to say a word of caution. Kinshasa is a big city. Kinshasa has traffic jams. When I was in the Congo, it's still, one makes friends. Congolese music is fabulous. You can have good food. The scenery is wonderful. The animals are interesting. So, though this may seem like a pretty negative presentation, it's not meant to be a stamp for the entire Congo. The Congo is a very interesting place. It should be a Tea Party dream. It's a place now where its institutions don't really function. It doesn't have a really functioning tax system. It doesn't lets everybody walk around with guns, even children who are 12 years old, child militias. You can't depend on any government services. Don't expect government entitlements. There's no financial regulation. It's pretty much a privatized country with everybody get in for themselves, not because they like it that way, some do, but the majority because that's what they have to struggle with. It also has a very large number of international donors because it's such a desperate situation, including over 20,000 UN troops who have spent over $1 billion and basically have not done that much to really bring true security to the country. And therefore, you have this phenomenon of still a country filled with enormous poverty, violence, particularly rape of women, but much more, and of course, endless diseases, and children and weak dying of diseases. Now, why is this happening? Why is the country? I quickly went through with the class that, first of all, if you go through history, that area of Africa, to the extent we know, once was a pretty functioning place. You had, in the 16th century, you had the Congo Kingdom. It was a major kingdom with official relations with Portugal. You had other kingdoms, the Cuba Kingdom. You had tribal societies that were pretty close knit. And of course, you had an incredible production of art. And in that time, and in Congolese, in that area's culture, art is not decorative art. Art is the way traditionally one educates and socializes. In that way, it's a bit like Bali, though differently. The art is part of productions and ceremonies and rites of passages, and was very important in constantly reminding any individual where they belonged in the larger community and in the larger universe, including their relations to their ancestors and what was expected of them and their group. That blew apart pretty quickly with the steamship and the ability to bring troops and goods. And in the Congo's case, when King Leopold basically established his own private domain and basically raped the Congo of ivory, of rubber, and did it in the most violent fashion, chopping hands off children, and over 1.5 million Congolese are estimated to die, and kept doing it until two very courageous individuals, an African-American minister and a British consul, over time got the world finally to force Belgium itself to take on the Congo as a country, which it did in a very paternalistic fashion. So it actually gave sixth grade education to most people. It brought in health care. It gave jobs. It industrialized, but incredibly paternalistically in terms of who's on top and who's on bottom. When independence came, the Belgians basically decided to cut the Congo loose, and it was totally unprepared. It had maybe 4 college graduates approximately in theology, philosophy, nobody who was really well trained, no institutions to run a country, and caught up in the Cold War. And Lumumba, its first leader, made the mistake of thinking he could sort of play the Russians and the Americans off against each other, and he ended up getting killed. There were terrible massacres. Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN secretary, died. And eventually, General Mobutu made himself a general, basically established a dictatorship for over 3 decades. And one of the most corrupt dictatorships in the world. Billions of dollars went out of the country. But he was tolerated because he was a vital player in the Cold War in terms of providing support and basis for the United States, and tolerated, and in fact enormous amounts of aid went into the Congo, and in fact a lot of it successful from a project point of view. Fabulous agricultural projects that still allow the Congolese, if they could find markets, to produce surpluses in corn and cotton and rice. Great village health projects, investments in the mines, the roads, but that all collapsed at the end of the Cold War because people were no longer interested in him. Then all of a sudden his human rights violations became serious. The pressure was on him to make it a democracy. He responded by basically pulling the plug on his own country, helping cause riots, chasing the foreigners out, and basically dismantling the Congo as a functioning state, other than the sovereignty of keeping others out until the terrible genocide in the Congo, in the Rwanda, the Interahamwe, after being defeated, being chased into the eastern Congo, the Rwandans wanting to go after them, and through a combination of Rwandan, Ugandan, Western agreement, basically supporting something named Kabila, Desiree Kabila, to be basically a puppet to allow the overthrow of Mobutu. Unfortunately, when Kabila got to Kinshasa, he decided he wasn't going to be a puppet, and he actually didn't go along with anything that was agreed upon, including allowing the Congolese people to have a major national conference that they were prepared to have and really discuss where they want to go, and not allowing just the most outstanding politician who had been in opposition, Tshisekedi, to participate, throwing him in jail, and basically deciding that he was in charge. And everybody going along, the international community going along with this, though the man had no real power. And what he did to get power was made a deal with the Interahamwe who were in the Congo, and the Rwandans flipped out on that, basically invaded the country to get rid of him. He responded by making deals with Zimbabwe and Angola to send troops to support him, and in return for supporting him, they got their hands on various things. The Zimbabweans got gold and land. Ugandans decided they'd go in and get gold mines. The Rwandans, all this informal trafficking, and basically a country today that doesn't function as a country, but functions as a purposeful center of chaos because a lot of people make money out of the chaos. Now, what does that mean?